amendment which are applicable from the 1st January 2021. So friends, as an overview, if we see how the new year started for the GST taxpayer. So mainly the new year started for the GST taxpayer with all the restrictions under the GST. So there are some favorable provisions also, but quite one or two favorable provisions we can say from the GST perspective, but all are towards the restriction and restriction only. So new year of the GST started with many restrictions to the GST taxpayer. Now, what are the major amendment? First, in certain cases, 8-digit HSN is mandatory from the 1st January. So there are certain chemicals, etc., wherein now they had made it is mandatory to disclose the 8-digit HSN. Then under FTP, they had introduced a RODTEP scheme. Definitely, this is not related to GST, but again, for exporter, this was a big change for the exporter from the 1st January 2021. Then definitely there are many changes in the GSTR 99C for the 19. So 1920 GSTR 99C due date is 20th February. And if you see the 1819 and 1719, whatever the 99C file for 1719 and 1819 will be very much differ than 1920, because many of the columns which were not applicable for these 2 years now becomes applicable for the financial year 1920, and that columns are mandatory and you require to gather that data from the taxpayer. So you can say you have to file very differently 99C for the financial year 1920, and this is again one more challenge that going to be faced from the 1st January 2021. Now, e-invoicing. So many of us may aware that the e-invoicing has introduced now, and it's made applicable for the taxpayer having mandatory for the taxpayer having more than 100 crore. So these are the some changes which had made in addition to whatever the changes made under the GST Act. But today our focus is basically on the notifications, etc., issued under the GST Act and the rules thereunder. So RODTEP scheme, which is applicable to exporter, we had already discussed in our last session. Today we are going to discuss the amendments applicable from 1st January, which are made by way of notifications. So 3 notifications issued, notification 92, 93, 94 issued. And in the next session, that is which is scheduled on the Saturday, we will going to discuss about the QRMP scheme, which is applicable to the taxpayer who are having the turnover below 5 or up to 5 crore. But please note that even your turnover is above 5 crore, there are some way forward for the taxpayer for the above 5 crore from this scheme. So we recommend that all taxpayers should join for our Saturday session. So let's start our today's session. That is, today we are going to discuss 3 notifications issued under the GST Act, 92, 93, 94. Now, if we see these notifications, the notification 94 is very critical, and we are going to discuss that in detail. Notification is 93 is only for the waiver of the late fee on specified region or the specified area, and hence we are not going to discuss that. But notification 92, whatever the relevant part for the all taxpayers and what are the provisions by which are implemented from 1st January, we are going to discuss. So let's start first with the critical notification, that is notification 94 by 2020. So in notification 94 by 2020, if we see 5 key amendment made under GST law. First, ITC restrictions has brought for the large taxpayer, provisions of ITC reduced to 5%, amendment in the GST return, GST registration, certain amendment made in GST registration and e-way bill. So 5 key amendments we are going to discuss. Then if you see what are the rules amended by way of this notification, so almost 10 rules are amended. So if you have to refer the amendment, 10 CGST rules are amended from 1st January 2021, and that rules are Rule 8, 9, 20, 21A, 22, Rule 36, 59, 86B, 138 and 138E. So these are the rules which are amended from the 1st January. Now, as discussed, there are some enactment of the provisions of the Finance Act. So let's start for the notification 94 by 2021. 94 by 2020. So it's issued in December 20. So 94 by 2020. So friends, first and foremost, we are going to discuss about the rule 86B. Afterwards, we are going to discuss the restriction of ITC, which is applicable to all taxpayers. Then we are going to discuss the GST return related changes, then registration related changes, and afterwards e-way bill related changes. So let's start for the 86B, insertion of 86B rule. So friends, a new rule 86B introduced under the CGST rule. Now, what is that rule? First, what is 86A? So if you may aware about the blocking of the credit. So from the I think last 1 year, the authority started to block the ITC ledgers of the taxpayer, and that reference is from the rule 86. So in the rule 86, they had given certain scenario wherein authorities has a power to block the credit of input tax credit of the taxpayer. So this power has given by way of rule 86. So there was scenario we had seen in the last year wherein even the vendor has not paid and there is a difference in GSTR 2A and the ITC availment, then in some cases credit has been blocked by the authorities. Now, whether question arises whether this is a natural justice. If my vendor has not paid the GST, then whether blocking of the credit or whatever the vested right, if I have satisfied all the conditions prescribed in the GST Act, then if I am having a vested right of ITC with me, then whether the blocking of the credit is a natural justice and it is in tune with, or it is against the Constitution. So it's it's required to be challenged definitely at the higher forum. But in addition to that, so even rule 86 itself, we will say that the unconstitutional. But in addition to that, new rule called as 86B has now introduced. And this rule again towards restricting the input tax credit to the taxpayer. Now, what this rule says? So rule 86B says that you can't utilize, so taxpayer can't utilize the input tax credit to the extent of or in excess of 99% to pay the GST liability. That means even you are having a GST credit, the taxpayer has to pay 1% in the cash. So 1% in the cash only. So can't utilize the credit even though it is available in the credit ledger. So friends, if you see that to whom this rule is applicable, first question arises, because this rule is not applicable to all taxpayers. This rule says that though you are having a credit balance in the ITC credit ledger, for paying the monthly GST liability, you can't use the in excess of 99%. That is that means even though you are having a credit balance, 1% you have of tax liability you have to pay in the cash only. So to whom this rule is applicable? This rule is applicable to the registered taxpayer having taxable supply other than exempt and zero rated exceeds 55 lakh. That means yearly supply approx 6 crores. That means whoever taxpayer having the above 6 crore supply should check the applicability of this rule. Second, whoever the taxpayer having the taxable supply in any month, taxable supply other than, so this should not include the exempt supply and zero rated supply. So only tax value of taxable supply exceeds the 50 lakh, then this rule get applicable. So for checking the applicability, first check monthly applicability, not on the basis of yearly. If your monthly taxpayer in any of the month taxpayer, the value of the taxable supply exceeds the 50 lakh, then rule get applicable. Second question arises how to compute the 1%. So whether this is applicable yearly, that means at any one point of time, if your taxable supply exceeded 50 lakh, then in each and every month it get applicable, or it is applicable only for the month wherein taxable supply exceeds 50 lakh. So friends, again, as there are many confusion in GST law, and this is one more confusion because 86B doesn't say about the methodology for the competition. But in our view, as there is an month, so we have to check the monthly applicability of this rule. Then competition should also be monthly rather than it's an yearly. So it should be the monthly competition, but we'll see again what are the practical aspects or any clarification from the government in this regard. So this is about the competition, this is about the applicability. So we got that it is applicable only to taxpayer who are having in any month value of taxable supply excluding exempt and zero rated above 50 lakh. Now the certain persons are excluded even though their taxable supply is above 50 lakh. And who are that person? So there are some exclusion to this rule. First exclusion is the person, proprietor, karta, MD or partner or director paid the income tax more than 1 lakh for the last 2 years. Now question arises, why linking between the income tax and GST? But we don't know what is the rationale behind this, but they are saying that if a person, proprietor of the firm or a karta or MD, so any of the director or partner has paid income tax more than 1 lakh for the last financial year or for the last 2 financial year, then this rule is not applicable. So this rule is not excluded, such a persons are excluded from this rule. Second, a registered person who had received the refund more than 1 lakh in the preceding financial year, then ITC related to the ITC in case of export under the cover of LUT or the inverted duty structure. So if you are having an inverted duty structure or export and you had claimed and received the refund above 1 crore or more than 1 lakh, then in the preceding financial year, so the applicability is to be checked in the preceding financial year. If it's in 1 lakh, then you are excluded. So exporter and inverted duty structure is excluded. But if refund has not claimed, then such assessee could get affected. Or not claimed but not received. So in many cases in inverted duty structure, they had claimed the refund but had not received on account of certain litigation with respect to input tax services. So such a cases could be covered under the rule unless and until you receive the refund. So it's a word not claim, but you receive the refund in the account, then only this refund is not, then only this rule is not applicable. Now, a registered person who has discharged output via cash in excess of 1% of total output tax paid to the said month. What is means by that? If you had paid 1% cash cumulatively, that means let's say in the last month your tax or in the last month tax liability get your last month tax value of the taxable supply is 50 lakh. Then what happens? This rule get applicable. But cumulatively for this year, that means from the April to December, let's say cumulatively you had already paid 1% of total output as a cash liability or total tax liability in the cash, then this rule is not applicable. So for each and every case, you have to check the applicability. So other persons are definitely government and etc. Excluded. Now, friends, what are the there are many challenges with respect to competition. So first of all, for this rule, the checking of applicability, one can say itself is difficult. It's a monthly, then competition itself could be litigious in days to come. Third, if this is a cumulative applicable, then one-to-one cases, the taxpayer has to check whether really I have to pay or follow this rule, because this is not automated by the system. The taxpayer has to follow the rule, and non-following of the rule could lead to the penalty and other consequences. So this is a challenging rule which one can say introduced under the GST rule. Now, why such a challenges has created to the taxpayer, and what is the rationale for introduction of such a complicated rule under the GST law? So friends, if you see, the rationale, or one can say rationale behind the introduction of this rule could be the fake invoice or the fake firm. So many of the cases from the last month, even from the last year, has launched with respect to fake invoicing and the fake firms. And then government may intend to link the bank account of the taxpayer with their system, so that the taxpayer could be traceable in whenever there is such a or they can mitigate the risk of the fake invoicing and fake firm. But for capturing or for capturing some of the taxpayer who are not genuine, then whether it is really one can say natural justice to introduce this rule to all the taxpayer, and this rule does not differentiate the genuine taxpayer vis-a-vis the fraudulent taxpayer. So definitely because of this rule, genuine taxpayer are going to be suffered. Second, with respect to online portal, if you see from the next or in the last week on online portal, if you refer the search GSTN feature, then a new information getting pop up regarding the gross total income along with the percentage of tax payment. So online portal is showing this information. So whatever the gross total income of that assessee and whatever the percentage of the tax payment in the cash is displayed. But the question arises, why such a this feature could be auto populated, or GSTN has given this feature because to check the 1% cash payment as required for the large taxpayer. So because of this one can say because of this rule only, this feature has brought into or displayed in the GST portal. But that please note that there is a note that percentage is for the last year, and the taxpayer has to check the applicability for the current year. So when even though data appears to be displayed, this may not be useful. So in days to come, we could have a clarity about this display figure feature. Now we are not having more clarity, only we are discussing the feature which is now available on the GST portal. So this feature is available, but meanwhile, if there is meanwhile there is no more clarity about this feature, please don't refer this feature till that we are having a more clarity. So this is about the online update with respect to this rule. Now legal validity. So friends, whether question arises whether this introduction of this is legally valid or it can be challenged at the higher forum. So definitely this rule can be challenged at higher forum. There are many grounds on which this rule can get challenged. First of all, such a restrictions is never ever been under the GST Act, and why such a rule is restricting to compulsory cash payment, even though I am having a input tax credit. Second, the main objective of the ITC is the seamless flow of the input tax credit. But where is that objective? Many of the provisions only focus to restrict the ITC. Let's say section 16 condition, let's say section 17, 40, rule 42, rule 43, even the rule, one can say now rule 86, now 86A, now rule 86B. So in any provision, even rule 36(4), every provision, if you see that aims to restrict the input tax credit to the taxpayer, then where is the GST objective of the seamless flow of the ITC? So such a many of the contention could be there by which this rule can be challenged in the higher forum. And even though as per the we are aware that the many of the trade chambers had requested the government to please at least extend this rule or applicability of this rule in future. Don't apply this rule from the 1st January, as many of the taxpayers already facing the challenges on account of or cash crunch or working capital challenges on account of the pandemic scenario, and implementation of this rule in this time is not good. But we don't know whether the government is going to think through and consider the request. But this rule is definitely going to create certain challenges to certain entities. And what are the entities which could be affected in this rule? First of all, the entities having the inverted duty structure. So if the entity is having a inverted duty structure or export and who had not claimed the refund in the last financial year or in last financial year, they and their refund received is not above 1 lakh, then this provision uh, is going to be affected to the inverted duty structure also, because there, if you see the exclusion is with respect to refund, or a person received a refund more than 1 lakh in the preceding financial year. So in the preceding financial year, you have to check whether received or not. If you are not received the refund in the preceding financial year, then definitely the entities who are having an inverted duty structure means that the output tax, that is their output tax rate, is lower than the whatever the input tax rate. Let's say output is at 5% and input they are purchasing at the 18%. So such entities are definitely going to get affected. Then the entities which are selling the goods or services at the loss. So so many businesses on account of COVID giving the discount, even selling the at loss to cover only at BEP. So working at the BEP level, break even point level, that entity are going to heavily affect on account of this rule. Now, the entities who had purchased those, let's say in a month, more stock to sell in future, in such a cases, input tax credit could be at higher side for that month. Then these entities could get affected because of this, because even though they had incurred a GST on the procurement, they can't claim the GST for paying the output tax to the extent of 1% of cash. 1% which is required to be paid in cash. Now, the entities which are having a heavy fixed cost is also one of the entity which could heavily affected. So let's say I will take one example, that the entities who are having a heavy rent cost, then the rent, the input tax credit on of GST of the rent could be higher, and their output could be taxed at the lower rate, or that means the raw material, if that could be covered, having a lower profit than 18%, then in such a case, on account of heavy fixed cost, there could be the accumulated credit. And even though they are having an accumulated credit on account of heavy fixed cost, as this is not variable expenses, and the GST paid on such a heavy fixed cost can be utilized for the purpose of the GST paid on margin, and hence such a entity is definitely going to affect. So in days to come, we will get more entities which could affect on account of this rule. Even at the last of the session, we will definitely have such a look after the entities which would affect on account of this representation, or on account of this rule, and we will prefer the representation to the GST Council. So we can share, you can also share with us such entities wherein we can represent for this rule with the government, that even these are the genuine taxpayers, these are getting affected because of these reasons, or they are having genuine accumulated credit. Now, this is about the rule 86B, newly introduced to restrict the input tax credit utilization. Now we start with the next amendment. Next amendment, again one of the restriction related to ITC. So friends, whatever the provisional availment of ITC, which is 10% up to December, now reduced to 5%. Now what is 10% and what is 5%? Let's discuss in detail. So you may aware that for April 2019 to September 2019, so even April, we can say that when the GST law has introduced July, so from July 2017 to, one can say, September 2019, the input tax credit available to the taxpayer is as per the GSTR 2A, or alternatively, the taxpayer who intend to, or who can having a valid tax invoice, they can prefer litigation and they can avail as per books also. But new rule has introduced in the October 2019, that the taxpayer can avail only 20% of eligible ITC, which is on the provisional basis. That means that 20% of the non-uploaded, 20% of the eligible ITC with respect to invoices which are not uploaded in GSTR 2A. So GSTR 2A, so whatever, so total ITC available for the period of October 2019 to December 2019 as per CGST rule is GSTR 2A plus 20% of eligible ITC with respect to invoices which is not disclosed in the GSTR 2A or uh, not uploaded in the GSTR 2A. Now in the January 20, they again made change and they said that the ITC as per GST and 10%. So 20% they had reduced it to 10% and only 10% of the eligible ITC can be availed on the provisional basis. So in January 20, you can claim, or the taxpayer was able to claim GSTR 2A plus 10%. Now, afterwards, if you see February 20 to March 2020, so in between this period, they had deferred. So government has deferred the eligibility of 10%. So they had not given any relief. Only they had deferred the competition. So up to February, in the month of February, February 20 to March 20, the taxpayer can avail the books of as per the books, but the applicability of the 10% of eligible ITC has deferred till August 2020. That means in the August month, you have to compute the, or taxpayer were required to compute the 10% eligible criteria in the August for the month of February to March 2020 on account of pandemic scenario. Say, so they only deferred, or government had only deferred the rule, doesn't given any relief. Now, if you see February 20 to December 2021. So now in the February, if you see that 10% eligibility, so in that after March, one can say February 20 to December 2021, again, ITC as per GST plus 10%. Amongst that, February 20 to March 20, you have to compute cumulatively at the in the month of the August. Now, from the January, that is 1st January 2021, this 10% is reduced to 5%. So let's say how many times rule has amended within a 1 year. It's almost 6 times rules has amended within 1 year. Now, friends, first of all, they are restricting the ITC to the taxpayer. Even there could be the genuine scenario. So there could be the scenario wherein the taxpayer has uploaded the invoices, but because of system error, the uploaded invoices is not reflected in the GSTR 2A. Second, you may aware that in many of the cases, GSTN has declared incorrect. So if you're having a declaration from the taxpayer that whenever I had filing at the time of the filing of GSTR1, disclosure of GSTN itself incorrect, and hence because of that the credit has not reflected in GSTR2A. There could be such a scenario, and such scenario could also be get consideration before availing or before giving such a restrictions for the input tax credit. Second, if you see, even one rule is amended 6 times, what are the numerous reconciliation required in such a cases to satisfy to the authorities that I had availed the correct credit? So you're required to do numerous reconciliations. So authority is not going to come and reconcile the data. The taxpayer has to substantiate the fact that the whatever the credit availed is correct and as per this rule. And if taxpayer is unable to substantiate this fact, then definitely only one route is that you have to litigate that, and because at jurisdiction level they are going to on account of this rule they are going to definitely they are going to disallow that input tax credit, and the taxpayer has to go for the higher forum and appeal up to the high court to get the favorable decision. Second, it's very difficult to substantiate our competition because you are aware that the GSTR 2A is dynamic. So it's changing whenever there is an uploading of the invoices by the vendor. So it gets changed. So it's very much difficult to substantiate the competition, because your competition could change, or the GSTR 2A could change when the authorities going to, or when the authorities visit your premises for the purpose of audit. Now, second challenge is whether GSTR 2A or 2B. Now, from the last 2-3 months, 2B has so from October, 2B has made available to all taxpayers. Now, there are many differences between the 2A and 2B. And why such as differences? Because if you see, 2A is dynamic, whereas 2B is static. Further, 2A gets updated whenever of that month when the GST return. So when the vendor upload the GST return, then from on the date of the, that means that the date 2A get updated in the month for which that return relate, but 2B get updated in the month when that return get filed. So these are the some differences between GSTR 2A and 2B. So main question arises whether taxpayer will use GSTR 2A and whether taxpayer will use GSTR 2B. Now, if you will use GSTR 2A, major one can say major drawback is that 2A is the dynamic and you can't substantiate fact anytime to the authorities. And if you see, and it's very much difficult to refer the 2A because 2A does not give whether the vendor has paid the liability or not. Then if you refer the 2B, 2B definitely gives the whether your vendor has discharged the liability or not. Second, 2B is static. But if the vendor has uploaded the invoice, let's say for last financial year after September 2020, and that that pertaining to last financial year, then such a credit you can't avail if you refer the 2B. So this is the major drawback of the 2B, one can say for users. So it's really a confusion whether the taxpayer should go for the 2A and 2B. So whenever you are opting that you are going to use the 2B, keep in mind that you should compare it with the books of accounts and avail the credit which you may you within the time period prescribed in the GST Act. Then, as we had discussed about the blocking of the credit, we had discussed about the minimum utilization of 1% of the tax for the in the or minimum utilization of the credit, or 99% only utilization of the credit, and paying the 1% in the cash. Then such a restriction in utilization of the credit, whether all this is against, or in our view all this is against the natural justice, because this if you read this rule does not differ the genuine taxpayer or differentiate the genuine taxpayer from the taxpayer who are fraudulent. So definitely these rules are introduced to catch up to the fraudulent taxpayer. But really this rule or whatever drafted, whatever rule drafted lead to catching of the fraudulent taxpayer, or lead to harassing to the genuine taxpayer, that question arises. And hence it is very much essential, friends, now to move on to the, or to our to do our voice, or to reach our voice should be reached to the government, that what government is doing by restricting or by harassing the genuine taxpayer. So it's now time to have an to reach to the government and to have our rights, and to speak against our rights, or to speak to God, get our rights. So we recommend that everyone should come together for such a restrictions. Now, GSTR 1. So friends, these are certain related to the ITC. So first, in the first session, we had covered about the input tax credit restriction. Now there are certain restriction related to GST return. So this again a very serious provision in GST Act. They are saying that in certain scenario, GSTR 1 can be blocked. That means the taxpayer will unable to file the GSTR 1. And what are that scenario? So if you are a monthly taxpayer and you are filing the GSTR 1, and taxpayer has not filed GSTR 3B or not furnished the GSTR 3B for the preceding 2 months, then that means GSTR 3B. So taxpayer has furnished a GSTR 1 for all month, but for the preceding 2 months GSTR 3B has not been furnished, then there will be the blocking of the GSTR 1. Then for the quarterly taxpayer, if the GSTR 3B is not furnished for the preceding taxpayer, that means any of the taxpayer period, if GSTR 3B has not furnished, then the GSTR 1 can be blocked for that taxpayer. Then for the last taxpayer, that means which we had discussed about the rule 86P, wherein 1% should be paid in the cash. In such a case, if GSTR 3B is not furnished for the preceding taxpayer, then the one can say GSTR 1 could block. Now, blocking of GSTR 1, whether helpful to the taxpayer. First of all, definitely it is not helpful to the taxpayer. So whatever the provision made is not helpful to the taxpayer. But the question arises whether introduction of this rule is helpful to the government or authorities. So friends, what's your view? Because if the authorities, at least by filing of the GSTR 1, authorities are getting the supply or whatever the outward supply from the taxpayer. By blocking the credit or by blocking the GSTR 1, really authorities are going to get the supply. So this is again serious. So if you block the GSTR 1, then many of the taxpayer could prefer not filing of the GSTR 1 also and not filing of the GSTR 3B also. So fraudulent taxpayer could move away from the department. So at least by allowing the GSTR 1, they can track the fraudulent taxpayer. So in our view, even though it is definitely to restrict the taxpayer, or it is against the taxpayer, but it's not also helpful to the authorities. Second, from taxpayer point of view, if you see, if their GST law permits the delay in filing of the return, if GST law permits the delay in payment with the interest, if GST law permit having some late fee, penal consequences on account of the delay, on account of the non-filing, then why such a blocking of the? So really it's a self-assessment or it is a system assessment, that question arises. Because why this blocking required if GST law already having such a provisions of interest, penalty, late fees for delay in filing? Then during pandemic, if you see, this rule has introduced during pandemic, or even we are not now, even though we are facing the COVID-19, businesses are facing the COVID-19 challenges. If you see, many of the businesses are giving the discount on account of COVID. So if you see worldwide, so in the worldwide, if you look into the tax from tax perspective, many of the worlds giving the tax benefits on at global level, tax benefits are given to the businesses so that businesses will gear up in such a situation. But what is in India? So in India, even though whatever the benefits available, so in or the rights available under GST Act are not getting to the taxpayer. Now, second, taxpayer could on account of this rule, taxpayer could, so as we discussed earlier also, the fraudulent taxpayer could stop to upload the invoices in GSTR 1 on account of cash crunch, and such a fraudulent taxpayer could run away, and whoever deal with whoever has purchased or procured from such a taxpayer would get punished, because they will not going to upload and they will close the firm. But how then at least uploading of the GSTR one of the way wherein as a genuine taxpayer who has procured from them can substantiate the fact of procurement. But by introducing this rule, one can say even the genuine taxpayer, even the genuine person purchases could not be substantiated, as or it could be difficult to substantiate that these are the genuine purchases, or we had purchased the material etc from that taxpayer, because they had not going to file now the returns itself, and filing of the returns has been blocked by the government itself. So so this is I don't think that this rule is we don't think that this rule is going to affect the fraudulent taxpayer. It could more affect to the genuine taxpayer. So again, there could be the genuine mismatches also. So in some cases, credit note could be in GSTR 3B could considered in the different month, or in GSTR 1 we had considered it different in different month. Such a genuine reason could have a difference between the GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, or there could be the genuine reason wherein we had not paid the liability because in our credit note is more than our outward supply. So in, let's say in GSTR 1 we had disclosed the outward supply, but for that month we are having a credit note which is more than the tax liability of the outward supply, and this is the genuine case. But in GSTR 3B we can't disclose the credit note. Then in such a cases, whether blocking will be get initiated, or blocking of GSTR 1 will be get initiated. So this could be certain genuine cases wherein also possibility of the blocking of the credit cannot be, blocking of the GSTR 1 cannot be ruled out. So these are the cases of blocking of the GSTR 1. Now the friends, suspension of the registration. So one more, one can say impact to the taxpayer is the suspension of the registration. So when suspension can be proceeded, first of all, so there are certain scenarios prescribed in the GST rule wherein the suspension can be, or suspension of the registration can be proceeded. And this scenario as first, if the significant differences or anomalies are found by comparison of the outward supply furnished in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. So there is a difference between the GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Then there is a difference between the inward supply or input tax credit availed as per GSTR 3B and the input tax credit uploaded by the your vendor or uploaded by the vendor in GSTR 1. That means there is a difference between the GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B and GSTR 3B. Then indicate, and such a differences indicate the contravention of the provisions of the GST Act and rules made thereunder. Again, this rule is so vaguely worded that any of the genuine taxpayer gets suspension of this rule, gets the suspension of the registration on account of this rule. So if you are genuine difference in GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, and it is substantial difference, then the suspension can be proceeded by the authorities. The authorities having a power to suspend the registration. Now, what is the impact of the suspension? First, the impact of the suspension is that the procedure, or the, again, one more compliances, because for genuine taxpayer it will add to the compliances, because first they are going to intimate the in the form GST RFG 31 now that your the taxpayer registration is going to be suspended. Now, as per rule, they had given 3 ways for the communication. So the authorities can communicate electronically by any way. Then electronically on the common portal they can communicate. So by way of issuing the notices on common portal. So taxpayer has to update, or taxpayer should check common portal day to day. Then by way of sending the emails, again check all your spam emails continuously whether any email has received for the purpose of suspension of the registration. Because if you got the suspension, you have to reply to that suspension, else registration could be cancelled. Second, what are the impact or what are the consequences on account of suspension? First, the rule says that the taxpayer can't claim the refund under section 54 during the period of suspension. So whoever the exporter, please be aware about your whenever filing the GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, unless and until these provisions get challenged. Because if you are having a difference in GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, and suspension has been proceeded by the tax authorities, then refund under section 54 is not allowed for the period of suspension, and your input tax credit would become the cost. Then second major worrisome, or one can say again, which can impact to the genuine taxpayer, is the opportunity of hearing. Rule specifically says that the opportunity being heard is not allowed before suspension. So even the opportunity of being heard is not allowed before the suspension of the registration. So rule 2 and of 21 is amended so that opportunity of hearing may, is not upheld or not given. Now, if you see e-way bill related, so 138E is also amended to say that whenever there is a registration suspended, then for that period, e-way bill is also, you can't file the e-way bill also. So e-way bill also blocked for that period. So these are the consequences because of suspension, and hence be care about filing of at the time of the filing of GSTR 13B. Be care about the reconciliation of the GSTR 13B. Be cross check with within your team or with the consultant, your GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, because of suspension there are these many consequences, and these consequences could affect the smooth flow of the business, or even could affect the running of the business. Now, whether revocation is allowed or not. So if you refer 21A, revocation can be done provided that it should be done, or it should be done any time during the pendency of the proceeding for cancellation. That means once it get cancelled, then revocation is not allowed. So please note that you have revocation should be done any time during the pendency of the proceeding. Thus, we had highlighted that check your email, check your whatever the notices received on online portal on regular basis to reply it on time. Then what are the challenges? So friends, because of this rule, first challenge is that the GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. So genuine differences in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B could lead to suspension. Second, it is preferable that now don't file the returns with the difference. So it is a regular reconciliation, monthly reconciliation with the books of accounts, monthly reconciliation of GSTR 1, GSTR 3B. If there are differences, then take the step prior to suspension itself, so that there should not be suspension. So these are the some way forward to mitigate the challenges in days to come. Then as discussed, that definitely not these all the provisions definitely does not help for the ease of doing the businesses. Now, cancellation of GST registration. So there are certain new scenarios added for the cancellation of the registration. Even at present, if you see, many of the registrations are cancelled automatically on account of non-filing of the return, even though without intimation to the taxpayer. So such a cases are also many of the taxpayers suffering on account of this. Now there is again new registration, again new firm. It will affect the business, it will affect the trust within the society. So there are for many consequences on account of cancellation, but without thinking or without applying any mind about the running of the businesses, authorities are cancelling the registration. Now, by changing the rule, new scenarios are added for cancellation of registration. First, if the avails the ITC in violation of the section 16. So any violation of the section 16 leads to cancellation of the registration. And what are the conditions prescribed in the section 16? So in possession of the taxpayer, so there are 4 conditions that to avail the credit, that taxpayer should possess the tax invoice, taxpayer should receive the goods and services, the tax should be paid to the government, and GST return has to be furnished up. So if we refer the section 16, there could be the scenario wherein your vendor has not discharged the liability. So one can say that even in the cases of GSTR 2A and ITC availment difference of GS as per GSTR 2A and GSTR 3B could lead to the cancellation of the registration if there is a huge difference, because they could say that the vendor has not paid to the government, and hence input tax credit is not available, and you has violated the provisions of section 16. Second, if you had not paid to the vendor within 180 days and ITC has not reversed to that extent, then one can say that can also lead to the cancellation of registration as it violates the provisions of section 16. So these are the genuine cases wherein cancellation of the registration queue proceeded on account of introduction of this new rule. Second scenario introduced is the furnishes the details of outward supply in GSTR 2. Again, if there is a difference between or GSTR 1, you had uploaded the excess output liability, but in GSTR 3B, you had paid lower liability. Again, this could be on account of credit note, but why these differences has not or genuine differences has not given an difference or differentiated while drafting this rule, we don't know. But the drafting of the rule is such a vague that the genuine differences that of credit note, because of credit note, etc., could get covered, because they're just saying that the cancellation can be proceeded if there is your outward supply declared in GSTR 1 is excess than whatever paid in GSTR 3B. Now violates the provisions of the rule 86B. So we had discussed rule 86B, wherein you have to pay mandatory 1% in cash, or last taxpayer, one can say only last taxpayer can 1% in cash. If violate that provision, then again cancellation of the registration can it can lead to the cancellation of registration. Now if you see rule 86B, implementation itself is difficult, their computation itself is difficult. So only because of competition lag, only because of provision understanding, if you had not paid 1% in cash, then it could lead to one cancellation. Now this rule is applicable to last taxpayer, and in case of last taxpayer, if GST registration get cancelled and they have to apply to the new registration, then just see the future of that big organization. They have to communicate to all their vendor, they have to communicate to all their supplier, whether businesses will survive then, because trust among the vendor and supplier could get affected on account of this. So again, proceeding of cancellation in such a scenario is whether it is a national justice or not has required to be questioned. Now, friends, many of the assessment or many of the amendments we had covered in the details. Now, just we will run through the small amendments which first related to the e-way bill. So they had now shortening the validity of the e-way bill. So earlier, before 1st January 2021, 1 day validity of the e-way bill was available for the 100 kilometer. But now 1 day validity is available for the 200 kilometer. That means you have that means driver has to increase the speed of the vehicle. So only 1 day is now for the 200 kilometers. So almost it's double required to speed or you have to double your speed. So this is amendment in e-way bill. Then registration related amendment. So registration procedure under GST has now completely changed from the 1st January. Now there are two KYC or amendment in the KYC, one can say. So Aadhaar authentication has introduced. So there are two ways. If the taxpayer has opted for the Aadhaar authentication, then biometric based Aadhaar authentication and taking photograph is compulsory for obtaining the registration under GST. Now, if the taxpayer has not opted to get the Aadhaar authentication, then the taking biometric information, then information is also going to take by way of biometric in addition to photograph and in addition to identification or authentication. And in addition to that, verification is also verification of all documents and other KYC documents are going to be done. Also, there is a physical verification or power of physical verification is also allowed to the authorities in certain cases, or authorities can choose the cases wherein they can physical verify the premises. Certain procedural changes are made in the registration. So now one can say now 7 days instead of 3 days. So earlier 3 days are available for the processing of application of the registration to the authorities, but now the 7 days available. So days are increased so that while processing the application, authorities could check in detail all documentation and authentication. Then physical verification and the registration shall be granted within 30 days. So In case of physical verification, the registration period is 30 days for granting the registration or submission of the application, etc. So these are the certain procedural changes in the registration or amendment with respect to registration. Again, all the amendments to strengthening the process of the registration, and this could be because of the fake forms which are found in last year. So they want to mitigate the risk of registration of the fake firms. So we are not against such a procedural or KYC norms. So these are essential to mitigate the risk of the fake firms. We are against the restrictions to the genuine taxpayer. So these are the related to registrations, procedure amendment in the procedure of the registration. Now, enactment of the amendment. So friends, many of the key amendments we had already discussed, but there are, if you see the notification 92, the certain amendments of proposed in the Finance Act. So these were proposed in the Finance Act only, that means budget 2020, but now that enacted from the 1st January 2021. So this enactment or this notified, one can say notified by way of the notification 92 by 2020. So now it's notified, and we are going to discuss key amendments only. So Schedule 2 has amended to remove the whether or not for consideration, and this is the correct amendment because Schedule 2 gives only the bifurcation of works contract or the contract wherein material and labor or service involved, whether that will be treated as a service or whether that will be treated as a goods for the purpose of GST. And the Schedule 2 is amended that removed, or in case of transfer of business of purchase, they had removed that the whether or not for the consideration, the word has been removed. Now, if you see regarding application of revocation, so the Act has amended to give the power to the commissioner or additional commissioner, wherein they can condone the delay of the 30 days for filing of the revocation application. So delaying condonation, if you see earlier law, then the delay of condonation was not allowed. But now the delay of the GST Act empowered the commissioner or additional to condone the delay of 30 days for filing of the application of revocation in case of the cancellation of the registration. So you can condone the delay, just file the condonation before time, so that before proceeding the cancellation. Now, there are certain provisions also enacted from 1st January 2021 that are the provide for cancellation. So in case of voluntary registration, now if you are opted for voluntary registration and after 2-3 months you got to know that there is no supply and we have to cancel the registration, then the section 25(3) as amended, and now voluntary registration or the taxpayer who had opted for voluntary registration can cancel their registration. Now, second, there is an amendment with respect to of TDS. So they had removed the requirement of TDS certificate. This is again a use taxpayer friendly amendment. Then now TDS certificate is not required to be issued or not required. If it is available online on online portal, then TDS credit is available. So they had removed that requirement of the TDS certificate by the deductor for availment of the credit. So they had also, by way of Section 31 of the Finance Act, they had enabled the provisions to prescribe the manner of the issuance of the invoices. So this could be amended on account of for introduction of the e-invoicing. So this empowered to prescribe the manner of issuance of the invoices or in specific manner. So these are the certain amendments are related to the offenses. So if you see, the penalty proceeding or offenses has strengthened, and fraudulent availment of ITC, etc., would lead to the cognizable and non-bailable offense, even for the person, not only for the person who commit, but who involves in that offense directly or indirectly. So these are certain related to the or strengthening the offense provision, Section 132. Then retrospective amendment from 1/7/2017 with respect to transitional credit. So this is again not much relevant to all taxpayer. This only just shortly say section 140 earlier only empowered to prescribe the manner for availing the credit or transitional credit, but they are not having a empower or not having a power. The authority is not having a power to prescribe the time limit, and hence this already challenged in many cases that the authority is not having a power to prescribe the time limit for the availment of the transitional credit, and hence this rule has amended from 1/7/2017. So these are the certain act related amendment. So there are two user friendly amendment. One can say that the 30 days condonation is available in case of revocation. This is one of the amendment user friendly, and related to the TDS, they had removed the TDS certificate requirement. So friends, these are the amendments. So we will start with our question answer session. Before starting our question answer session, just a way forward from the today's session is be prompt for all compliances. So whatever compliances are applicable, we take it seriously. Second, you have to reconcile your data on monthly basis, GSTR 1, GSTR 3B. Be reviewed in from the third person, so that there should not be gap within internal team, and because only the differences in GSTR 1, GSTR 3B has many consequences, like blocking of the GSTR 1, cancellation of the registration, suspension of the registration. So such a severe consequences could be there. Then the reconciliation of the books is very much necessary for in the GSTR 3B once end. Second, regular update. Like say we had discussed the update. So these update are implemented from 1st January itself. So it's definitely very much essential that in GST law you have to update regularly, so that there should not be the future liability or huge future liability which could be surprising to the taxpayer. So it's a very much essential that the regular updation should be in GST law. So these are certain way forward from the today's session.